So just before we get into today's episode, I just want to say a huge thank you to those people who have shown me support since day one of starting this podcast. My number one goal when I first started this podcast was literally just to reach episode 20. And today marks that day. And what a way to reach episode 20 than to interview Marc Dean. Marc is an unbelievable athlete and now an unbelievable coach who's achieved so many different records when it comes to HYROX. He's an absolutely outstanding athlete, and there's so much to be taken from this for the person who's trying to level themselves up in the gym. And if you're somebody who wants to level themselves up in the gym, outside the gym, and mentally, this podcast is for you. So I've set myself a little goal of trying to reach 500 YouTube subscribers before the end of this year. So if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and make sure you follow on Spotify. So I want to see how many people can actually tune in, show the support for the new guests that I've got coming up in the future. Before the end of this year, I've got 2 mega guests that I cannot wait for you people to listen to that are just as good as Marc's interview today. So that's enough of me waffling now. I massively appreciate any feedback you can give me on Instagram at Dylan Mascord, which will pop up on screen, on ways I can improve this podcast, any guests that you want to see in the future, and what more you'd like from this podcast from me. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it on your stories, tag me and Marc, and let us know what you think of it. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and let's get straight into it. What would you say is the biggest achievement?
The biggest achievement, I would say, it's got to be the world record. Yeah. I think everything what's come off the back of it. I mean, when else in what other sport are you kind of recognised as a world champion? It's been massive. So yeah, it's definitely the. And
was that something that you had in your mind when you first got into HYROX, or was it just?
Never. When I first got into HYROX, it was kind of just like ticking a box. I was just into all sorts, and I first went with some guys from the gym, just to kind of have a dabble at it. I'd never touched a sled. Never pushed the sled, never done any of the movements apart from the skiing and the rowing, just within the class. Just went. I'd come off the back of an Ironman, and I was they know me for being a good runner. And we turned up and ended up winning the event. Yeah. So I knew I had some potential in it, but again, I wasn't bothered. Didn't do HYROX again then for, I think I put it to bed for like 3 or 4 months. Didn't want to, kind of been there, done that, got the flag. On to the next thing. Yeah. And then HYROX kind of grew in popularity, and everyone else from the gym was jumping on it. I was like, right, okay, I'm going to get back into it and start again. So from there, I think it got a little bit more serious, and I thought we could kind of progress with it then from that point.
Yeah, and like you say, HYROX has grown in massive popularity recently, and a lot of people who are getting into the races may look to someone like yourself who's smashing it and think, oh, it didn't take him that long to get a world record, but do they not see like the hours that it took from the beginning of training and building up that endurance?
No, I think, like I said, from my side of things anyway, I've adapted to it well, but it's not just come from just starting HYROX and doing well. It's come from years and years of, like, I was running and I was biking before school. In high school, I'd get up and I'd go out at 6 o'clock on my bike, or I'd run, and it's just something that I've always done. So I've always built a good base up, of fitness. So obviously all that has helped me to get in from where I am to where I was in HYROX, just for the hours and hours and years of doing it. So the transition just came a bit quicker to me, I think, than most, but that's because of all the years of training beforehand.
And what's been the motivation from being young to train? Like, what was the idea?
My motivation was just, if I do something, I want to do it to its fullest. I want to do the best I can. I've not always kind of achieved what I wanted, but I've been the best version of what I can be. So like for motocross, for example, I raced for 10 years. A lot of the training was swimming and biking, biking and running, a little bit of swimming. And the motivation was just I knew I wasn't the most talented rider, but I knew that I could be the fittest and I could last the duration of the races because I was putting the hours in with the training. Yeah. So that was the motivation to just carry on being fit and just carry on progressing in that way. And then after that, obviously with the Ironmans, I think it's just it's just feeling what I know I can be capable of, and just pushing myself to that limit.
And wanting to improve your best self.
Be the best version, I can be, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So there's never any sort of inspiration from anyone else?
I've never kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's people that inspire me, like you watch on YouTube, like you just was mentioning about Nick Burr and people like that. Like I love watching people like that because they're always putting the work in. So if you flick on YouTube and you watch the videos, you're like, right, I'm going to go for a run now, I'm going to go to the gym. But I've always been self-inspired, so I think you've got to inspire yourself a little bit to want to keep going. Otherwise, if you don't have anything for yourself, then you'll just probably die off, and it won't last.
Yeah, and who do you feel like potentially helped you know how to progress, say, with the Ironman? Was there a coach? Was there anything that you looked out for further education?
At the time, I had a really good friend of mine who'd done Ironman before, really fit lad, and he'd just come to my house every day and we just bounced off each other. He was such a fit guy. He doesn't do anything at the minute now, but at the time, he'd just turn my house every day at 5 o'clock, half 4, 5 o'clock. We'd run, or we'd bike, or we'd swim. And it was just me and him. We had no nutrition in place. We had no coaching in place. He'd just kind of drag me on. I'd drag him on as I got fitter. And it was just, that was it. It's just always been a bit of self-motivation. And
mega. So what does the day look like for yourself, potentially when you first started out or now, where you wake up and you're not motivated? Because I imagine a lot of people see smashing in the hours, doing all the training, having a full-time job, kids. What does it look like? You wake up some days, you roll over at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, you think, I don't want to train.
Well, obviously you do have them days, don't you? Obviously everyone's human. But I think just have to just realise what you're doing it for, and kind of understand what the end goal is. And no matter how you feel in the morning, I'll just think, right, I wanna be world champion at HYROX, so I'll just have to get up and have to do it. You do have them days where you feel like you have to do it. A lot of the time I don't, but obviously there's some days that there is a little bit you do lack a little bit sometimes. Yeah,
but you've just had that self-talk where it's like, I'm going to get up and just still do it.
The most motivation I've had to try and get is to get up and go to work. To get up and go to the gym was easy. 4:30 straight up to the gym. Then it was the motivation to then go to work. That was the hard point.
And like we mentioned before we started, when we was off air, do you feel like when you was in that mindset of working, being able to train, like to now being an athlete, having the sponsors and having all the time in the world, do you feel like it was harder then or harder now?
Completely different in regards to kind of pressure. I think what I've got now is a lot more pressure to kind of perform. I'm not being told that by anybody, any sponsor or anything. They're all fully behind me. They're all saying you just go as good as you can. There's no pressure on you. But personally, I pressure myself a lot, and I want to prove it to all them and prove to everyone else. Whereas the pressure beforehand was, I could turn up to an event and if I didn't do so good, I'll just get in my van and drive home. No one would have really batter an eyelid. The pressure was having to get up at 4:30 every day, having to get to the gym for a certain time after work, having to be home for the kids, that was the pressure then. Now the pressure, I've got all the time in the world, I've got a lot more time, but I have to be on the ball a lot more.
And would you say that's more difficult?
I would say that at the minute I'm feeling the more difficult of it, because of stressing myself out a little bit with it, gotta say,
And like next event coming up, I think we spoke about before we started, was Birmingham this weekend.
Birmingham this Saturday, This is my first UK event, so it's the first. I've only ever done one pro singles, which was last year in November. Since then, I jumped on doubles with Jake, so I've done quite a few doubles events. I've done one singles, which I got the UK record. That was in May. I don't kind of know at the minute. Until you do an event, you kind of don't know where you're at, you don't know where you stand, you don't know who you're on par with. There's some big names going on Saturday, so I'm just looking forward to getting out there now and just seeing where I'm at, and then I'll hopefully progress from that point. Yeah,
amazing. And like you said, when you first do an event, you don't have that idea of where you stand. I feel like a lot of people potentially just think they have to do HYROX sims all the time. Would that be a good idea for someone who's starting out?
No, never. I mean, it's great to do a sim. I always like to get one in maybe 6 to 8 weeks, just so you can kind of get through all the transitions, and it's a little bit of a guide as to where you're at and if you're progressing. But the kind of benefit is you've got to kind of be good at all 8 disciplines. So, for example, one session should just be fully prioritised onto ski, one session fully onto sled, one session fully onto burpees, and then after the end of that 2-week block, then you can throw it all together. You can't just keep doing sims, because you've got to build endurance, you've got to build stamina on each station. So just going doing a sim, it's just not beneficial at all.
100%. And like for yourself at the minute, where would you say is the main area you feel like as an athlete you want to improve on?
So the main area for me is, speed. Running speed is always a massive thing with HYROX, but when you go from the open to the pro category, it's strength as well. So I've kind of, since doing the World Championships in, was it May? I think it was May, Was it May or June? Somewhere around that time. I kind of took a back seat, had a bit of a break, started the coaching, tried to get a little bit stronger. And that was my main priority, really, was to get a little bit stronger. So it's kind of taken me a bit of a time now to get some speed back in there because of giving so much time up for that. But overall strength, and obviously just maintaining the engine and the speed work. And
like we mentioned when we was walking in today, like the difference between obviously someone who's just starting out and like for yourself who's trying to shave seconds off. There's a massive difference in training.
Strategy got to come into it then as well. And HYROX is kind of is labelled as like what's the word?
Like all inclusive.
Yeah, but a low skill.
Yeah.
It's a low skill competition, isn't it? But I think what people don't understand is once you get to that high level of it, the low skill becomes very, very high in intensity and in being able to kind of get through those sessions. It's tough. That's the tough part about it.
Yeah, we've had a couple of guests on who've spoken about like the entry level for a beginner who's getting into HYROX, and obviously generating that decent fitness level. So say if you could run a 10k, you've probably got the go ahead to potentially do a HYROX for the first time.
Course,
Your time would be decent, potentially not amazing, but then like you said, once you get to that level where you're getting close to the 60-minute range, that's when those extra seconds that you can shave off make the big difference.
In all stations.
Yeah.
Like anybody can do it. That's the best thing about HYROX. Anybody, any age, any size, any shape, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
So that's where kind of the low skill set kind of comes into it. But like you said, when you get to that, I've noticed a big difference. So when I first started doing it, I was around a 103, 102 in male open. To get from, say someone getting from say a 1 hour 10 to kind of 1 hour 5 is a little bit more easier. But to get from like the 101, 102s to the sub 60s, it's only 2 minutes. That is the hardest transition. So you've got to just be kind of, you have got to have strategy, and you've got to be on the ball, and your paces and everything start coming into it.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the tough part then. Once you get under 60 minutes, that starts getting tough.
So what's the next big goal for you for like HYROX? Where do you see yourself going with it?
So I just want to see where I'm at on Saturday, and then just progress from there. Obviously, I want to be keeping my times under 59s, 58s, hopefully getting to 57s, and like the guys who I kind of want to be up against now are knocking 56s out.
Yeah.
So my goal is to progress.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight. I've only been full time for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to kind of just turn up and start blasting 55s out. But yeah, if I can just stay under an hour within the pro category, every event, just slowly start to bring the times down. I'd love to kind of be able to make an entry into the Elite 15, which is pretty hard to do. Yeah. But I'd love to just get an entry into that and get into a qualifier for that.
Yeah. What actually is the process to enter into the Elite 15?
I'm still not. I think I'm right with saying you've got to get to. So for example, I go to Birmingham and then go to Manchester in 2 weeks' time, and I get a 58 and a 59. It goes off your average time between those two times. So I'll be like a 58.5 minutes. That would then put you in the rankings for the Elite 15. At the minute, I think you have to be under a 57. Right. So you've got to post 2 really good times, and then you get invited to a qualifier, like a major. And then from that point, if you get podium, then you're in. Yeah. So it's kind of like there's 3 steps to getting in it, and it's tough for someone like me, or anybody really, for example, to get into it. There's a last chance qualifier in Barcelona in next year. Is it in April? So that gives us a chance to go, but obviously the level will be tough. Yeah, anybody can go, and
everyone will be doing it.
Yeah, I think anybody can try and get into it that way.
Yeah, and at the minute, obviously, with doing HYROX, is there other events, have they been put on hold, like potentially Ironmans in the future? Marathons?
Yeah, for myself. Yeah, so I've kind of, it's mad because I've kind of gone from working full-time job to doing marathons, Ironmans, HYROXes, and now I've kind of left my job and I'm full-time. I've only got time for HYROX. It's mad. I don't know how I did it before. But yeah, I just want to put all my focus into it because my marathon training got in the way of my HYROX training. The Ironman training was pretty good. That I kind of used that as more of a zone 2 to just kind of, weekends, things like that. But I felt like I couldn't progress so much in both areas at the same time. So I want to just focus just on HYROX on its own and just see where we can go. Yeah,
because I can imagine you built up such a good level of endurance from that training to then take it to
definitely helps. But I think if you want to be, for me to get to the level I want to be at, I've got to focus on that one thing. I don't think you can do multiple competitions, and I think you've got to focus on that one that you want to prove most in.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like when you was training for the Ironmans, marathons, HYROX, when you had a full-time job, there's a lot of people who are probably listening who are in a similar position, working the 9 to 5, want to start training HYROX, maybe do a marathon. What would be the biggest motivation or tip you could give them?
You've got to just kind of be very disciplined. Like the only time I could get it in mainly was first thing in the morning, like to get a good session in. Otherwise you're tired to then just a little bit at night or a little bit in a weekend. If you can get up and discipline yourself and you can get into a good routine of it and you can train early in the morning, that's one session out of the way, you're done. Anything else is a bonus. So I just think if you want it, you just make time to just get up and get at it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, is that something that you always just made sure?
Yeah, made sure you had time. And don't get me wrong, it was tiring. And like I said, we mentioned about the motivation and things like that. Sometimes might not get to bed. That was pressure. Like my girlfriend used to hate me at nights and be like, right, it's 8:30, let's just go to sleep, please. I've got up at 4:30. Some nights it might get 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then I'm fretting. Might not get enough. Well, I wasn't getting enough sleep. I actually looked at my Garmin once, and over a 12-month period, my Garmin watch, my average sleep was just under 6 hours for a year. So the quality of my sleep, the quality of my recovery has never been that great on that side of things. But yeah, just have to just be disciplined and just get up and get at it.
Yeah, and now obviously you've got the time to be able to have more sleep.
Course,
and with that recovery, obviously it's going to be able to perform a lot
That's
better.
what I'm hoping is going to be the best part about this new journey, is that I'm not training any more than I was. If anything, I feel like I'm training a little bit less, because before I had like short periods of time where I had to get a quick session in, where now I don't. I've got as much time as I need, so I'll spend a little bit longer warming up. My sessions are a little bit more intense, but I'm kind of not at the gym as much as I was. If that makes sense. Trying to focus on recovery, trying to get a bit more sleep. So my alarms, the baby's the alarm at the minute, because he's up between 5:30 and 6. But it's a lot better than 4:30.
And do you find it harder trying to prioritise that recovery because you're somebody who feels like you need to be all guns blazing all the time?
That's been the most mentally challenging thing, is sat about sometimes if I'm at home and I'm like, I can't sit still, I'm climbing the walls, or I'm in cupboards just eating because I've got to be doing something. Like my time's been so regimented for years of training, work, training, football, tea, bed, or whatever the kids are doing, you know what I mean? Just constant, every day doing something. Now I've kind of got a bit more time to myself. I'll a little bit more time with the baby in the morning, and then I'm going to the gym a little bit more laid back, and then I'm training, and then I've got like a gap of 2 hours where I'm thinking, shit,
I need to get on the bike and do
I mean,
some
allowed
miles.
to be sat here doing nothing like that, but I think that's the benefit of the new career, is to allow myself to rest and have this bit of extra time.
And you need that obviously to
but
take
it's
yourself
tough.
to the
That's
next
been
level.
mentally challenging for me to kind of. It took me 2 weeks to kind of actually like get a bit more accustomed to it. Like when like you might skip a day at work or have a day off and you feel naughty, you feel like you're wagging work. For 2 weeks I was like, I'm meant to be at work, me, what am I doing? Like getting my hair cut in the day and things like that. It's weird.
I think a lot of people who do watch, you have like the type A person who all guns blazing, listens to David Goggins, they look at people like yourself and think they need to train every single morning to get to that level. Or type B who probably needs David Goggins because they're lazy majority of the time and they need that kick up the arse to actually go and train.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you feel like you probably move towards more the constantly all guns blazing?
I did do because I had to. So kind of to get to the level that I wanted to get to, I had to. It was, and I neglected a lot of things as well, which is what I've kind of put into place now. So for example, if I get up in the morning and it's early doors, or I've got a 45-minute window after work to get to the gym and do something, and I've got the choice to either stretch and mobility or get a slog in, I'm choosing a slog all day. And that was kind of my life. I'm kind of probably conditioned to it. But yeah, that's where I've taken a bit of a backward step in my new transition, just so that I can put a bit more time and effort into the mobility, into the stretching.
And obviously like preventing injury.
That's the main thing. That I don't want to be injured. Like I don't want to bloody
take too many steps back when you're going so far forward.
That's the one. So again, mentally, I've had to just know that I've got to go backwards to kind of go forwards. That's what again with the weekend, I'm not sure kind of where I stand at the minute, because I know I can be fitter, and I'm just not. I'm not where I feel like I need to be right now. I know I'll get there. But yeah, so I just want to see where we're going to be at the weekend. And if what I've done so far has worked. Well,
this may be coming out this Sunday or next.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. Do you want to put a guess in for the time?
For the time, I definitely want to be under 59. I mean, no disrespect to anybody, like, but for me, for that level now, if you're not under 60 minutes, you're not in that category. You've got to be under 60. Birmingham's a big course, so I'm not going to try and bring my time down too much, because I understand that rock zones and things get taken into consideration. Times are just so completely all over the place with different courses. But yeah, under 59, I'd be really happy with that.
Yeah, sick. And like, just going back to the person who's potentially listening now, working that 9 to 5, who's getting into the HYROX, and like, say for instance, you was all guns blazing anytime you was going for the slog instead of the mobility. How would you reach out to them to potentially say, like, sometimes you're trying to push it too much? What's the sign for Mark that you're overtraining, or things are going, you're burning out, you're burning the candle at both ends?
So a lot of it I just went off feel. So I wasn't stupid to the point where I would train 7 days a week, twice a day. If I would train as much as I can, but if I felt like I needed a rest, I would just take the rest. You've got to understand, you've got to know your body. So I'm not telling anyone to go and smash 2 sessions a day before and after work. I'm saying get as much in as you possibly can, as long as it aligns with your life and everything, but you've got to listen to your body. at the minute, I'm actually going before that. I'm actually just getting the recovery in before I even feel tired.
Yeah.
I'm planning recovery. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah, and so many people need to hear that, like we spoke about before we started, who are looking up to these like people who are doing amazing times in the marathons or HYROXs and stuff, and assume that they're constantly all guns blazing because they're on Instagram all the time. But sometimes that's not the case. Like you said, you have to plan in.
Yeah, of course you
days.
do. Yeah, I mean the top guys will tell you. Everybody will tell you the recovery side of things is just as important.
Yeah, and obviously, like you said, working a full-time job, you know from first-hand experience for the person who's listening, that's stress as well.
Of course it is.
That's
yeah,
work.
And you're on your feet a lot more as well. That takes a lot out of you. I have noticed since. Cause I'm quite heavy for a runner or a HYROXer. So when I try and cut weight, it's always, say, 6 to 8 weeks pre-event. What I've noticed is, because I've been off work now off work, I'm finished my other job. My weight cut hasn't been coming down as much because I'm kind of losing 10,000 steps a day.
From work?
So when I'm working, my training and diet's similar, but I'm kind of 10,000 steps, I'm at work, and then I'm back at the gym, whatever. Where now, my sessions are a little bit harder, but I'm kind of sat about a bit more. Yeah. And I've noticed that's another thing I've had to try and learn, is that my weight hasn't been coming down as much. Yeah. It's little things like that. But I've had to just try and alter my calories, or maybe just get on the bike, just do half an hour, just slow, just to burn some more calories. Or that's been pretty hard to get used to as well.
And with weight going into a HYROX, what's your mindset behind that? What's the goal weight that you try and get to?
So again, I think you need to know your body. You need to know off experience. But personally, I like to drop to about 87 kilograms, which usually I'm 91, 92.
Walking around
happily.
Weight.
Yeah, just with like a normal balanced diet, normal training, 91, 92. So it's quite a lot to cut. Yeah. But I feel like I'm strong enough to get through the stations, and I feel like I'm still fast enough to run well. And I think that's the balance, and that's just me understanding it from experience.
Yeah, and at the minute, are you programming yourself, or do you have a coach?
Yeah. So I program everything myself. Yeah. I do feel like I do need it. I would love a coach. Yeah. I've spoke to a few guys about getting involved with them and stuff, and it's nice to because I coach other people now, and like my mind is constantly thinking about workouts for me or for someone else. And like we just mentioned about when I've got a competition coming up, if I could just take one less stress away from myself and not spin as many plates, I could just plan for those that need it, and myself could just be read off an app or whatever, and I can just they can concentrate on me rather than me concentrating on something.
Yeah, 100%. And like all the high level athletes.
Yeah, everybody. I think the top guys have coaches. I think even the top guys have coaches.
Well, like you said, they have to do, obviously.
Yeah, of course,
balancing a job or trying to coach other people. It just takes that stress away from you.
Takes that stress away, and obviously everyone's got different tricks up the sleeve. Everyone knows. Yeah. I mean, I know how to program for HYROX, but there's other stuff what I neglect, what I maybe need help with. I've had some bits of stuff off some friends, some bits of strength programs and that, and the stuff in the pipeline. But at the minute it's just all myself. Yeah,
mega. And going back to obviously when you did make that decision from going full-time work to now being a coach, what was that decision like? Was it tough? Did you find it hard?
No, because it's something what I've wanted. I've wanted this to happen for a long time now, so I kind of built it up a little bit with the coaching alongside work, just to get to a position where I kind of could leave. But no, it's been the best thing. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been the best thing I've done.
Yeah, amazing.
I just hope it continues for
and continues
years
growing.
to come. Yeah, and continues growing. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, because it was so in line with obviously what you wanted. You felt like it was the right decision.
Yeah, the right
make.
thing. Like I've wanted to leave a few times over the past years, like with lockdown and stuff. I thought about opening my own outdoor boot camp, and I wasn't really supported so much with kind of like my dad and stuff. So I just basically I didn't want to kind of piss him off a little bit sometimes, so I just thought, fuck it, I'll leave it.
Well, was that something where was you working for?
Yeah, so it's a family business what I was working for, and it's just wasn't really supportive of that side of things. But a few things had happened recently, and it's just put a few things for me into perspective, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna just do it now while I've got a chance.
And I can imagine that's in itself more pressure on you to
again
perform.
Yeah, of course, like I say, it's just added the pressure I felt over the last 5 weeks. I just want to get this event out of the way.
Would you say that's where a lot of the pressure comes from, or would you say majorities that you just put on yourself?
I think a lot of it comes down to myself. I make it worse. Like my girlfriend's always telling me, no, it's definitely you. You're making it worse for yourself, and you know what I mean. I think I do pressurize myself a lot, but I just want to be the best at anything I do, and I think that's what pressure comes with that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I can imagine that's why it's so hard having those 2 hours where you've got nothing on.
Yeah,
100%. So obviously, now moving forward, we've spoken about, obviously you got the HYROX this weekend, and then the goal is to obviously get into the Elite 15. Any other events? Obviously I know you mentioned they've been put on a hold training wise, but in the future would there be anything that you potentially go down a route of trying something else?
I mean, there's it called the DecaFit?
Oh yeah,
so I wouldn't mind to go at that.
Yeah.
I've got a friend in Stoke who owns a gym. He keeps inviting me to go down and have a go at that. I think it's very similar. There's a few events coming out now what I think are mimicking HYROX slightly, but I mean, Ironman, I just love getting up, love biking, love running. Swimming, not so much. I just do that because I have to. But I think I'll always have my toe in the water with Ironman. So I'll just stick to HYROX for now. Maybe next summer, just carry on with some Ironman training, just because getting out on the bike's just like, it's just good for your mind, it's good for the body. It's not taxing. I love it. But yeah, just HYROX and then probably just stick to Ironmans, I think. And
with HYROX, is it just solos, or are you going to go back into the doubles?
Yeah,
as well?
so just solos for now. But obviously, like me and Jake, because we've got the world title, it would be nice to kind of keep that. But he's doing his own thing a little bit as well at the minute, so I'd like to do mine, and then we'll probably throw doubles in somewhere. They have got the Elite 15 doubles now as well, so that'd be nice if we could. Hopefully they're on separate days. That'd be nice to kind of. I think Jake's got a really good chance of being in the Elite 15. So
yeah, he smashed the Elite 15.
Yeah, he's killing it at the minute. So if he did get in it, for example, and I did or I didn't, whichever, it'd be nice to be able to kind of do both. If we could, obviously, if we're going all the way to Chicago, it's a bit nice to kind of do as much as you can while you're there.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously when you do these races and you do the events, is there always motivation and the pressure that you're putting on yourself? Do you never find that you're looking at someone else's time and thinking, I want to beat him, or is it always internal?
I mean, you always have people in the race where you think, right, they've done this time, you need to beat that time. But yeah, you have got to kind of rise above that as well, and don't get sucked in to what anyone else is doing or what their times are. Just go as good as you can. I don't kind of turn up to an event. I'm not worried about anyone. People might be better than me there, but I'm not worried about them. I'll just tag on to them. You've got to run your own race, or you'll either burn out or you'll just ruin it for yourself. Yeah,
because I feel like a lot of people who are getting into the HYROX can think, oh, that guy from the gym who I know his mates with can
just
get
rise
this
above that. Just if you can, if you know they're a bit better than you, is what it is. Just tag on to them, use them. Just obviously just know your own boundaries and don't try and get tagged on too much. Then it'll just burn you out,
and you'll end up absolutely slaughtering yourself. Heart rate through the roof.
That's it, and you can't bring it down.
Would you say that's a major thing people should think about as well? Like obviously not letting the heart rate get too high.
You've got to, like I say again, know your paces, know your running, never go off. People go off like a bloody bullet, don't they, when they set off, and it's
and
just
then getting off that slide.
Get to the ski and then they're dead. I kind of go hard and then just pull it back a touch, so that I'm in control. It's all about being in control.
Where would you be pulling it back in the race?
From the very start. I would literally run, because I'm a bit more experienced at it now. The old me would have ran off like a bat out of hell, and if someone was running, I'd be chasing that guy at front. No, you've got to understand that it is, even though it's only an hour, it is an endurance race. So you've got to kind of, from the very beginning, I'll be setting off hard, but I'll be pulling it back a touch, because you cannot withstand that. If you're going into the first 5 minutes at 190 beats per minute, you're not going to withstand that for another 60 minutes, are you? Yeah,
100%. I think I've been there with races in the past where I've done it. I know a lot of clients who have coached and stuff, and people who obviously you see on Instagram, similar thing, just try and go all guns blazing. I think a lot of people, even if they start saying, I'm doing a zone 2 run, or they track a run on Strava, the heart rate's 170, and they're like, easy morning run. And it's like, it's not an easy run.
The heart, someone always tags something on Instagram about show the heart rate or something. Like people put zone 2 and they're like, definitely zone 4 to 5.
I think a lot of people can get confused with obviously the zones. Like, if you was to break it down simple for someone who's listening, like, what does a zone 2 run actually look like?
Again, depends on kind of your heart rate and your abilities. Like you're probably better just getting yourself. You can get checked out, can't you? And get kind of find your own measurements. I mean, zone 2, it's not like a really slow plod. You still got to put in some effort in. Like I think my zone 2 is between 145 to say 155, something like that, around those figures. So it's not like you're just walking. You still got a decent pace on you as well. But it's just you've probably got to understand what your own paces are for that one.
But obviously just don't get up in the morning and think I'm going to do a zone 2 and then get
it's not going
in.
Flat out. It's something sustainable, in it. It's just what you can sustain for a good period of time without burning out.
Because I think a lot of people get outside fresh air, they feel like Forrest Gump, I just want to go for it.
20 minutes in the dead.
100%. So in those sessions where you're going for a slog, you're training and you're absolutely flatlining the heart rate, what is that internal motivation where it's like just keep going? Where does that come from, or what is it that you're telling yourself?
I think it's just kind of, again, the mission ahead, knowing where you want to get to, knowing what you've got to do to get there. and then knowing what you're capable of. And it's also like with understanding, like, I know what work needs to be put in to be at that level. So I know I've got to just endure it, and I've got to just keep pushing it, and because I've kind of been there, and I know that everyone else around me is at that level as well, that's at that capacity. So a lot of it's experience again as well, knowing what it takes. So that's a big one. Yeah,
and like as an athlete, obviously moving forwards, what's the motivation to always want to do better? Some people might just think, come on mate, you've got the sponsors now, you're doing well at HYROX, why do you
again,
want to keep
like
on
you mentioned the sponsors into like again, there's no pressure off them, but you want to make them proud. I want to make my kids proud, family proud, and then obviously I'm never happy with myself. So even when I won, even when me and Jake won the Worlds, or I won Poland and I got the UK record, I come off and I was like, fucking hell, I want to go better. I wanted more. I wasn't happy with my time. I wasn't happy. The Worlds was just an amazing experience, but I've never once been fully satisfied. I always feel like I've got more in me.
Yeah, that's a great thing, but then also it can be, I'm imagining, a burden.
Of course.
I'm not being able to enjoy that moment.
Yeah, that's it, so that's it helps, but then also it still causes fucking few grey hairs because it stresses you out.
Because obviously if somebody does finish the HYROX race, it isn't a big achievement.
Of course,
you don't want to get to the end of it and look at the time.
I mean,
just go,
don't get me wrong, like I don't cross and think, like I'm not mad, but I do think after it, like I'll be like, me and my missus will be just having a look and be like, Karina, I could have gone a bit better here, or I wish I had another 10 seconds in me there. And she'll tell you, and well, my closest friends would tell you, like I'm never fully satisfied. I always want that bit more, and I think that's.
I think it's so those friends and like relationship, are they always telling you to obviously be proud of yourself?
Yeah, so like that's one of the main. They're the main support for me in my life, is because I am hard on myself, and like I said, at the minute I've been stressing. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know if I'm fit. I don't know if I don't know where I'm at. So I've kind of been using them as support. They're kind of just making you feel better about yourself again, and just putting things into perspective. And that's a massive thing, is having the good support around you. You need those people in your corner.
Definitely, obviously when you first started training, did you feel like potentially not a lot of people at that age were wanting to do the sort of training you was doing, potentially on the weekends? How did you find that?
No, because I mean, there wasn't many people that I know really, apart from the lad I've mentioned before I used to train with. There wasn't that many doing triathlons. So I do like doing things on my own as well. Like I wouldn't say I'm a massive team person. So I kind of never really been involved with anybody else. But yeah, just what was he saying that then?
Training, obviously, when you was
lost myself then.
Don't worry, when you was first training, obviously the people who
that was
you were surrounded with at the time.
So like in the classes, things like that, we're all there for the same reason. We're all in the same class doing the same thing, and that's great. So I think when you're all in the gym together and you're all doing the same class, there's just a common ground.
And you buzz off each other.
You all buzz off each other. One guy's better than you on the ski. You just all kind of help each other.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people can struggle because they're in a situation at the minute where they want to start HYROX, but it's like none of their mates might not want to. Or
that's it. Do you know what's mad though? HYROX is such a big community. Like, I've literally been stopped on a plane. Like, especially if you're wearing a Built for Athletes bag, you look like a HYROX guy, you've got your HYROX clothes on, or you whatever, and it's such a big community. Like everyone's like high-fiving you, or I've been stopped on the plane like for pictures, things like that. It's mega. You'll always find a group of people no matter where you go. Everyone's dead friendly. It's just a sick environment.
100%. I think I did one in Madrid it was like last year or 2 years ago, and I was the same when he was on the plane. You were just looking and he was like, oh yeah, you've got the
like
bag
he's HYROX. He's HYROX. He's been Glasgow. He's been back because he's got all the badges on the bags. Everyone's just so welcoming and friendly. I've never been anywhere in a situation where I've met, even I don't know who the people are or whatever. We ended up chatting and getting into HYROX, and it's like, bloody hell, you're straight away, you're friends. And that's what it's like with everyone. That's what's so good about the community. It's just a good thing to be a part of.
And it's growing. It's a good sport at the minute. It's growing well. The affiliate gyms that they've just brought in and stuff.
There's loads.
It's so good because more people, like you said, it's easy accessible for people to get into. And like we said before, like HYROX compared to potentially like the 70.3 Ironman or like the marathon, there's a lot more people doing it, but the community is probably a lot bigger.
I've never really like, when you go to a triathlon or you go to an Ironman, and I think the groups of that kind, I don't know, never as friendly. HYROX is such a friendly place to be. Whereas when I've been to triathlons before, or for example Ironmans, it's a lot of people, they're either in very cliquey groups or they just want to be on their own. It's not a very welcoming place. And I have found that a lot with triathlons and Ironman events.
And you was the one who was just on their own.
Yeah, I've been on my own anyway as well. Yeah, but like even if like it's a very cliquey environment.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. And like we said before, like doing a marathon and getting an unreal time, and sometimes you don't even know who the winner is.
It's like gyms. Like you get some gyms and they're very cliquey gyms.
Yeah.
But any gym what supports HYROX, everyone's like, I go to various different gyms.
Yeah.
Everyone just loves it. Everyone's friends with everyone. But before probably HYROX came around, like you'd avoid some gym because it was cliquey because of somebody, or you know what I mean. It's just a sick event.
100%. And it's I just love how, like we've mentioned so many times in this podcast now, like how so many people can do it, but then at the elite level, there's shaving seconds off. So it's that competitiveness that obviously you miss out in potentially a marathon, because you know when you're turning up on the day, you're probably not going to get first place.
No, exactly. Like you could spend 12 months of training for a marathon,
and you'd be nowhere near.
You're still an hour off the top guy. You've not seen the top guy.
Yeah.
Like when we did Birmingham, Mark was man and Jake's first doubles. There was a massive crowd there. Hunter came, Graham Halliday, James Kelly, John Wynn, and the crowd was really good. And then you've got like Susan and Janet in the doubles before us, and they're flying round, and then you've got all those men and like big names on the same track as them, and they love it.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you can actually be on the same track with
as
these
the
athletes running past you. You're like Hunter Matt flying past you, and it's mad experience.
Yeah, that is mega. So for like the person who's potentially going to do the first HYROX now, what would be your biggest piece of advice?
Biggest piece of advice is, first of all, just go and enjoy it. Sometimes, I mean, personally for me, is I just like jumping in the deep end. So don't worry about it. Just get it booked and go and do it. You, no matter how many you do, it's an experience, and you will pick up something what you need to get better at anyway. So don't be put off by it. Definitely just get a little bit more familiar with the movements. Like you say, I know we said about not doing sims all the time, but just do a couple of sims just to get familiar with all the movements and the transition between running and each station. And just get stuck in.
Get
100%. Stuck in, and you'll pick your own positives and negatives up from it, and you'll just learn every time.
Yeah, and I think it's like something I've literally learned from you from this conversation today. Like some events have got longer rock zones or longer track than others, so sometimes your time might not be.
Your time's not all. All you can do is be the best on the day. And for example, Birmingham is a bigger course. I want a certain time, but I'm more bothered about getting a podium and being up there with the top. If our times was 110 and everyone's is 110, it is what it is. Doesn't matter. It's no reflection on you as an athlete. It's more about how big the course is. So as long as I'm within the top 3 guys, that's it.
Yeah, 100%. And just a little bit off topic, like what is at the minute, or what was the fastest 5k? Mine. Yeah.
I did. What was it before? I think it was before the Worlds. Like I said, when I was a little bit lighter than I am now. Like I said, at the minute, I feel like I'm stronger and a little bit slower. Then I was like light. Because doubles, obviously, it's more about speed and recovery. So I did a 15:21 5k. Yeah, it was a
10k.
33:31.
Half marathon.
I did a 1:16 last week.
Oh, wait, Manchester.
Yeah, I turned up, just jumped in at the deep end. I've not done a half marathon since Ironman in July. I haven't run much distance because I've been trying to get some speed back in. And managed to get. I wanted a 1:16 and I managed to get a 1:16.
What was the half Ironman?
My half Iron time was 4:47.
Yeah.
And the overall time. 4:47 for the
and
half.
Then full Ironman.
Full Ironman, I've done it in 11 hours in 2019. That's one thing I will go back into. I want a sub 10 hour. The one I did was Bolton. It was apparently one of the hardest bike courses in the world at 10.5 thousand feet of climb. It actually never got done again, that course, because there was that many people complained about it, and it was that hard. I think 400 didn't even finish the bike. So to get 11 hours there, the winner was 9.5.
Wow. So
usually winners are 8.5. So that put an hour on. More or less.
Compared to the other races. And again, that's a reflection where it's like,
of the course, So as in 11 hours, I know I'm capable of better than 11, but for that course, it was actually a really good time. I got like 50th out of like 2,000 competitors. So,
And what about marathon? Fastest marathon?
I did 2:47 this year. I went to Barcelona and did 2:47 marathon.
Mega. And obviously, a lot of people may see those times and just think, oh yeah, it's quite quick, but they're ridiculous times.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Ridiculous times.
Again, I know they can be better, so I will redo them all again.
We'll have an updated time.
That's it. I think I will. Next year, I'll just going to stick to HYROX for now. But yeah, hopefully my coaching grows, and hopefully this can remain my full-time job, is just be involved in all the sports and have more time, and I can kind of progress. I think I can definitely get better than times than what I've got, but again, it's just all more time I need.
And again, getting those times is just a personal goal that you've just
personal goal, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good enough what I've already got, but
yeah,
we always want a little bit more.
And like we mentioned when we was walking over from the car to get into the studio today, like you getting those times, like the 15-minute 5K is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's not just you woke up one day and ran that time. That's through years.
That's from years and years and years of running.
Yeah.
I've never even done any speed work until I started doing HYROX. But what the key thing there is, I've ran for, if you look at my Strava stats, like from having Strava, I don't have run like say 20,000 miles. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but it's something stupid. I've done miles and miles and miles from being 15, 16, in my 20s. So when I started HYROX, obviously you need to be speed worthy as well. So speed only came into it a year ago, 18 months ago. But when you've already got the level of a fit base and a good running background anyway, it's easier to get fast. Yeah. Whereas if you come into it and you're not a runner, I would never recommend going the track and just doing really fast 1K intervals. You'd not get better. You're probably going to get injured. Yeah. You need to be comfortable at 10K first before you can start looking at speed.
Yeah. And what would a speed session look like?
Maybe just, I mean, everyone kind of does like 1K repeats. So I rarely do 1K repeats. I would rather do 1200s or 1600s, mainly because 1K on a track is 2.5 laps. So mentally, I just like doing a full lap. It's either 3 full laps or 4. But I think if you can get comfortable with doing 1200s or 1600s, then the 1Ks become a little bit more comfortable. Yeah. And you can kind of adapt to it a little bit more. Yeah,
so if you was to have a split across the week for HYROX, what would be like your ideal?
So ideal for now would be like a lower strength. I'm trying to find my ideal week at the minute because I'm trying to use my time as wisely as possible. Yeah. So it's always a lower strength, maybe an interval session on a Monday, upper strength, an interval session on a Tuesday. Wednesday might be like a high intensity erg day, or maybe a couple of hills, some hills. I always do hill sprints usually on a Wednesday, and then a little bit of erg work. So it's not that taxing on the body. You can get a double session in. Do you know what I mean, with the erg stuff? And then you want at least 2 to 3, closer to an event. You want 2 to 3 HYROX style high intensity sessions as well. So yeah, and then
scheduling the recovery.
The recovery. Yeah, well, I've got kind of the rest of my day to
100%.
do that. Yeah, but recovery again, just if you can schedule it in, if you've got time to, always do. But like I said before, I was always just have to go off feel.
Yeah. And what would the ideal recovery look like?
I love getting a massage, ice, sauna. There's a place I've been going to in West Orton called Time Wellness, and that's
John.
Such a good facility.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. John Buller goes. John Buller goes. It's.
I think John, who hopefully watches this podcast, I can shout him out. Bald Head, who's the physio there.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
I think his name's John. Yeah, it's good time physio. Yeah. You can have a shout out there, mate.
Yeah. Sick centre. Yeah. So like ice and sauna is mega. Massage, and then just literally just chilling as well.
Actually relaxing,
and then looking after your nutrition. Nutrition's been massive. Since kind of taking that upper level, I noticed that was a big change even when I was at work. So refueling the body after sessions in the morning would help me through the day at work. If you're kind of malnutrition, then I'd notice that like I'd be stiff at work. I couldn't bend over. I'd be lethargic. I'd be on the coffee. I still have a lot of coffee anyway. Like I love coffee, but nutrition's massive. Yeah, definitely, I would recommend getting.
And what foods are you going for nutrition? Say post-race, pre-race.
Yeah, so it's stuff really what you wouldn't think to kind of be eating. Like fuel for performance is all like pretty high carb, high sugary stuff. Like love jam bagels. Yeah. Post workout would be like maybe like a smoothie. Again with some honey in it. It's just sugar's just fast acting carbs. You've got to get that in you. I think pre and post sessions, and then just adjust an overall balanced diet. Try to track yourself as best as possible, because you don't want to be kind of taking on too much fat or kind of too much sugar at the wrong time, and keep your carbohydrates and your proteins up to a good standard. And like with those sessions that you mentioned previously, when you was mapping out the ideal week, say for someone who's a HYROX athlete, say for the person who's just starting, what would be the main fundamentals they should look at? I know we mentioned getting time on the erg and getting comfortable, potentially doing a few sims, but
we should be looking at running, potentially doing 1 or 2 HYROX sessions.
I would be doing more. Running's a tough one because if you've not got a running background, you don't just want to start running every day.
Yeah.
But running needs to be priority. So again, that's where you should maybe start programming in some recovery.
Yeah.
So running straight into an ice bath afterwards is really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, try and run at least 3 times a week, whether it's day on, day off, day on, day off, and then the day off between those sessions, maybe like an erg work, a little bit of strength stuff. Just so that you're kind of touching on all bases. But I mean, the ergs are perfect because you could jump on I really love doing like a Miko's triangle. So like you'll do like a bike, a ski, and a row, and a minute rest.
Okay.
That is, you can go really high intense with that. Every session's tough because all you do is just add another calorie on to make it even harder. But it's just not that. It's not that taxing for your body. Where you're running, you've got to be careful. It can put stress on your joints or your bones, your muscles. It can be tough.
And a lot of people get injured from running, like I said, from doing too much too soon.
I think the percentage rate. I was chatting to one of my friends, Ben, who was on about this on another podcast about kind of marathon runners. There's a really, really high percentage of people that don't even make it to the start line because of the volume of running that they do. And I think that's the same with HYROX.
Yeah.
You've got to be putting the miles in. When you're putting the miles in under kind of fatigued legs, it's probably a little bit worse for the body. So you need to be careful on that one.
So careful. And like say you're training for a marathon and you're trying to do all those miles, how would you, obviously going back to those zone 2 runs like you mentioned, you're not trying to be Forrest Gump and absolutely blitz it.
So when I did my marathon training didn't really go hand in hand with my HYROX training. It was just great for my zone 2 recovery and just carrying building that base. I don't know if you saw Jake's marathon time, 2:29 or 2:28, was it?
Something like that.
So, I mean, he was kind of doing his marathon there at his HYROX pace. So it was just the excess amount of time he was obviously and the expenditure on his body and everything, but which was tough. But that would have worked really well.
Yeah.
But with mine, it was a lot more chilled pace. Still a good time, but just a lot more chilled.
Yeah, because I think HYROX sits in that good place. I was having a conversation with Stephen Fawcett of like, for the Ironman, it's like that strength training, then for CrossFit, it could potentially be that endurance training.
Yeah, of course.
And it sits in a good place, like in the fitness industry now, for people to be able to get into and then have the option if they get interested in another sport to be able to fall into. A
lot of lads who I know that have kind of come from CrossFit, like myself, I was never that great at CrossFit. I did used to like the training, but again, I would get, because I'm not very mobile and I'm a little bit stiff and I'm probably not that good at like gymnastics, things like that, I would get injured a lot. And a lot of people I talk to who do HYROX now have come from CrossFit and they like it because, like you say, it is low skill. It's all the cardio side of CrossFit and people just feel better after a session and they're not getting injured and they're not. Like I think I slipped a disc a few times in my back, just from like maybe bad technique or just all that powerlifting wasn't for me. But yeah, people seem to enjoy the transition from CrossFit to HYROX. There's a few actually on YouTube now. I was watching one this morning. I don't know the names, but some guy American he's in the CrossFit Games. He's on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
A lot of lads from CrossFit are having a go at HYROX.
Yeah.
And they're all enjoying it.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of videos of lads who've done like triathlon, or there was one where it was like an Olympic level rower who's gone into HYROX, but then he gets flatlined from like doing the sled push because obviously he's not done that strength work and he's so used to just doing endurance.
There's so much conditioning in it.
Yeah.
But that's what hooks you because you know every time you can go better.
Yeah.
So that's what sucks everyone in. That's why it's growing and growing and growing.
And obviously having the mindset of always wanting to do
better. Then it's just it's win-win in it there.
Yeah. And I think that's why so many people who take it on end up trying to succeed in other areas of their life as well, like trying to launch a coaching business, or somebody who's working the 9 to 5 who thinks they maybe want something better, or they try and get a little bit of a better physique. It sits in that nice place of people who want to improve themselves. They've always got something to improve on.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, mate, thank you so much for this.
No problem.
It's been a great
pleasure,
chat.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to have a look out for your stuff, where would they go to?
Yeah, just my Instagram really. Just Marc Dean with a C _
Sick.
all one, and that's it. Everything gets posted on there.
Yeah, mega. And we'll link everything in the description as always. Thank you everyone who has listened this far on in the episode. If you're not already, subscribe, follow on Spotify, because we've got loads more guests coming up, and we'll see you in the next one.